Hi guys, we're four like-minded people who have got interest in physical, mental health and well-being. And we're here to talk about mental health and the excuses that people make.
I shall open just a prompting PowerPoint. So today we're kind of looking at why do we make excuses? Why don't we seek help when we're feeling down? Why don't we share our concerns? Why do we bottle things up? So why do we make excuses for kind of seeking help when we're feeling like we need it? We often kind of shy away from seeking the right support. So has
I
anybody got any thoughts on that?
think for a lot of people, it's kind of a weakness. It shows a weakness,
Yeah.
and also it shows they probably get a little bit embarrassed
Mm,
about talking about it, and the fact that there's that other side to them, and that they'll be seen as someone different, not that kind of the mate who's always happy, cheerful,
mm,
or the person that's kind of really clever or really academic or is a go-getter. They'll be seen as they're weak. They haven't really got their stuff together.
mm.
They swore then. Yeah, so I think that's the one that comes out for me, that they're seen as weak and
And
they
I think
can't
there's
really cope.
a little bit of a difference as well between like refusing or avoiding seeking some support and help just when you're having like a bad day or just a bit of a rough time, or when it progresses into something more serious and you are having like proper mental health issues. Because even just, I think we had a discussion, Colin, once around that just those small things that can kind of impact you, even if you're not having mental health issues, we all have those small things that happen that make us feel really rubbish. So I think we talked about like I think it was the best man, like as a best man, like for example, your best friend picks someone else to be a best man, and that might have like a real impact on how you're feeling and your self-worth, and you might see it as a bit of a rejection or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think this happened
Definitely.
to Colin. We were just kind of coming up with some different scenarios, weren't we, in a discussion? And
Yeah.
but something like that, you might not actually open up about that to someone and say, you know what, I felt really rubbish because this is what happened, and my friend didn't invite me to be the best man, and it's left me feeling really rejected. And so you'd kind of bottle that and shelf it, and then a bit later on something else might happen in that day, like in a meeting, your boss might say that that weren't done on time and have a bit of a go at you about something that's happened at work, so you shelf that.
Yeah.
And it's over time, isn't it, when you're not kind of talking to anybody about these things, then that it can build into something that's kind of a bit more significant.
Yeah.
So do why don't we share those small things? And for me it's about also having somebody to share that with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it might boil down to being aware of the fact that there is a need to share things at those times. So being aware of what the power of sharing or talking could be or do, and impact on that. And even just being aware of the fact that you are down. Some people maybe are so caught up in the rat race that they're not aware of when they're down or when they need to share something or need to offload, and they are bottling things up. They just get pulled along by the wave of life and the rat race. So
It's
you know having the little chapters in your day or your week or your month where you do have, like I share my concerns with Claire, probably too much, where she'll say, why are you telling me that? And I'll do it because it makes me feel better. But
yeah.
then there's times when I'm thinking, I'm offloading stuff to Claire, how's that going to affect her?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I always want her to share with me. I always want her I want to help her out, and I'm going to be a man and take that weight off her shoulders and fight fire, put these fires out. She don't necessarily want that. That's what I feel I need to do. And I know I'm learning that women don't want me to necessarily find a solution. They just want me to listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm always wanting to take these challenges on and find a solution, where she doesn't necessarily want a solution. She just wants to talk.
I read a meme on the Gospel of Facebook, where we get a lot of our information these days, and it said It was somebody had said the question, would you like a solution or comfort, has saved my marriage on many occasions. And I think that's true. I think at the start of the conversation, kind of deciding, is this just, would you just like to offload and you want some comfort from it, or would you like me to help you to find a solution? It's a really key thing, even just in friend discussions or, you know, colleague discussions. Quite often it's good to identify that, because you can sometimes kind of, I know I can be a bit patronizing if I'm trying to find a solution for someone and actually it's not the solution they want. So it's
I understand that, definitely.
That's definitely like a life lesson for me, that I always try and solve other people's problems when they don't necessarily need to be solved, or they don't want them to be solved.
Yeah, Dave's a bit like that with me. You know, he'll say, come on, what's the matter? Tell me all about it. Right, okay, what we're gonna do. And I'm like, I don't need you to do anything. I just want, let me just moan to you. Let me just tell you about it. But I went a long time. I was on my own. We lived for quite a lot of years, for 7 years before I met Dave. And that's really hard. Then sharing that with somebody, because, and as well, I suppose we've been brought up with my mum, she's an independent woman, my grandma's, all the rest of it. And it sort of, it carries on through the family. It's kind of like, I don't need to ask for help. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to get on and do it. And I suppose back to what Colin was saying about it shows a sign of weakness. It does. And do you know what? You'll not believe this, but I don't cry very often. And again, that probably comes back to right at the very beginning of my adulthood, where I thought that if I cry, that shows sign of weakness. That makes me look vulnerable, and I'm not going to be doing that because I'm me and this is not what I do. So that's kind of like, I don't know, I suppose in a way that's kind of been at the back of my mind all this time. If I cry, it's showing I'm weak. It makes me look vulnerable. If I'm vulnerable, my eyes off the ball, that's when somebody's going to take my feet from under me. And that's, so it is. But, you know, like you say, knowing to ask for help, and it's, for me, I don't like to ask for help. Not because I want to do everything myself and get it all right and don't want somebody else to get it right. It's just, I'm just so used to being that independent. I think I need more somebody to say to me, it is all right to, you know, just stop. You can ask, and it, you know, nobody will think anything less of it. But, you know, it's sort of, that's what I do. I find it really hard.
I think we have become more independent. Everybody, all of us, have become far more independent these days. So it's also not wanting to be a burden on others. So that's you tend to cope with things that are going on because you don't want to burden other people with your problems. But, you know, if I thought I'd got a friend with a problem and they didn't talk to me because they didn't want to be a burden, I'd be really quite cross with them. Like, you know, you must tell me what's going on. Of course I'd want to know. So again, that's an excuse that people could make for not opening up. Is, you know, it's another barrier, isn't it, that you kind of need to bring down and remove for people, that, you know, you aren't a burden. I want to know, I want to be there for you, because we all feel good kind of helping others, don't we?
But I think that probably, sorry,
go on, Colin.
That probably stems from the people that they've spoken to before, because I guess in a lot of cases, they would have spoken to at least one or two people before they've spoken to you. And then when you say to them that, you know, you're not a burden, they're thinking, well, how comes the other two people that I've spoken to, you know, have come across as if I have been a burden? You know, like, don't worry about it, or man up, as some people say, you know, all those things, that the typical things that people say, because in a lot of cases, they haven't got the time to listen to you, or it's not the right time to listen to you. So they don't mean any harm, but it just automatically comes out. You know, they speak before they think. And then, you know, when they get to you, the third person, it's like, I don't really want to talk about it. You know, they bottle it up. And then when you say, you know, oh, don't be silly, of course I'll listen to you, or whatever, and they're thinking, okay, so what's in it for you, kind of thing. You know, there must be something else behind it.
Because we're quite busy as well. So like what you were just saying there, if you go to somebody and you start to open up, you don't just go to somebody and say, I'm depressed, I really need some help. That doesn't happen. You kind of float around, maybe just mentioning a few little bits. And then if you engage in a conversation and somebody encourages you to talk more, then you might get into opening up. So I guess in your mind, the other person, the listener, if they're not aware of that, they could quite easily kind of shut you down without even knowing it. you know, so you might be kind of just tiptoeing into a conversation, but for them, they may not realize where you were going with it. So inadvertently kind of appear like they've not got time or they're not interested. But I guess sometimes you set that up yourself because you're just, you know, tiptoeing in and wanting them to respond in a certain way. So inadvertently, it's like a kind of impactful situation, but it's not intended to be, is it? It's because most people, if you did go to somebody and say, I'm really depressed and I need some help, they'd stop what they're doing and give you that in an instant.
Yeah. Do you know, sometimes though, I find by helping others and listening to other people and giving them a few sort of, I don't know, nuggets of whatever, actually is a good release for me. So inadvertently, I'm giving support to somebody else, but I'm also having a chance for me to get a bit of that out as well. Yeah. And that makes me, you know, I think, oh, you know, I feel better about doing that, but I also feel like I've let go a little bit as well.
Yeah. That's time, gang.
Again, wow, you lot can talk. So our next chat is around excuses around healthy eating and why people don't start that Monday morning diet.
Yeah.
I know why I don't. It's because I love cake. So there you go. I've summed up the next chat. See you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Yeah.